The desire to change and alter the things that we already have is one of those things that we as creative people all have in common. We never seem to be satisfied and we want to change it to make it fit our own creative vision. Today I have a product for you that will help do just that. Hi there, Sandy here. Welcome to another Friday Findings video at keepsakecrafts.net. So what do all these metal pieces have in common? Well, they are ripe for this product. Vintaj Patinas. Now it's funny, I bought these patinas years and years ago when I was scrapbooking, and they were recommended for changing up the metal pieces that we use in our scrapbooking, brads and different things. And I used them a little bit, but not very much. And they actually sat in my stash for so long I was afraid I would never be able to get them shaken back up and usable again. But the good news is, with a little bit of shaking, they will come back to life even after sitting still for many years. So what exactly are Vintaj Patinas? They are a product made by Ranger Ink, and they are formulated to stick permanently to metal. They're opaque instead of transparent like alcohol inks, which come in pretty much the same type bottle. But these are opaque. In fact, if you look here, you could see it's kind of started to separate, and there's this chalky stuff that's separated from it. And it's that chalky stuff that gives it that opacity and that, for lack of a better word, patina look. They come in sets of 3, like these, which I picked up not too long ago. I haven't even opened yet. I'm going to play with them for the first time today. And they put together sets with names. This is, I think, called Victorian Window. These 3 come in a set called Weathered Copper. And you can see from those colors that you definitely have all of the different shades that are in copper. And these are some of my favorites to use. These 3 are a set called Rusted Hardware, and I believe these are called Treasured Heirloom. And then there's several others. They actually have several metallics that I don't have and would like to get. They have a rose gold and a white gold, aged bronze and antique copper. But they're really nice colors. Now you have to make sure that whenever you use them that you shake them up. There's a little ball in there. And I will admit that these took a while to get going. Like I said, they were sitting in a box for a long time and that ball was stuck down there. I shook them for several minutes and finally got the ball moving until these were all mixed up. So make sure you do that or your paints aren't going to come out the way you want them to. What's fun is that you can put them on pieces of metal with a texture and then sand it back. There actually is a sanding block made especially for them called the Vintaj sanding block. For some reason right now on Amazon it's $43. So I don't know. But you can use a block like this and then just sand it off the high points, leaving it in the crevices. And I'll show you a little bit of that in a minute. They dry really quick, but if you want to, you can speed it up with a heat tool. And then there's also this stuff, the glaze, the metal sealer, and patina extender. And what's cool about using this, and I'll show you that, is you can mix this with your patinas and get a more transparent look. Like I said, they're opaque, but mixing with this makes them a little more transparent, extends them like it says, and also is a sealer. These don't need to be sealed, but there are some applications where you'll want to seal them. And in fact, if you have metals that are going to oxidize, like say you have a piece of brass or copper or silver that the high points have been polished and the low points are darker, like many of our pieces, and you don't want that to change, you can actually add just a very thin coat of this sealer, and that will seal it off from the air and keep it from changing. Because otherwise, you know, those metals over time will tarnish. My favorite thing to work on is a piece of craft sheet. And I buy these, I'll have a link at my blog post. I buy these in a big set of like 3, and then I cut them into different size pieces, and they're really useful. Now, if you look up Vintaj on Amazon, you will find all sorts of metal pieces that they have made, and they're specifically for using for this kind of thing. By the way, these clean up with soap and water, which is nice. They say not to mix them with water, but if you're using a brush to apply these, then you definitely want to have a little dish of water nearby to clean your brush right away, because like I said, they dry quickly. What's really cool is you can actually mix the colors and the metallics. All right. You can actually turn your colors metallic just by adding a little bit of the color to the metallic. So like here's some of this verdigris, and you can just dab it on like that. I love this color. But you can also mix it, and now we have a much more sparkly verdigris. And then this is jade. You can get different looks depending on how you decide to apply this. So right now I'm just dabbing it with a brush, because what I want is to get all those little cracks and crevices filled in. You can go back and add other areas. Now you could leave it like that and let it dry. I'd probably move it off so there isn't stuff drying in the holes. But what I really like for a look is to just take a paper towel and dab. I'm not rubbing, just dabbing. And if you rub, you'll get even a different look. Isn't that pretty? It really does look like a piece of copper that's weathered. So that's one look. All right, remember to wash your brush. And this is dry already. It's dry to the, well, it's a little tacky, but it's pretty much dry to the touch already. What are some other things you can do? Well, what about these? Every time I look at these beads, I really don't know. Oh, well, that's nice, thanks. Every time I look at these beads, I say, why did I buy those? I really do not like the look. I just think they're kind of ugly. I don't know. There's something about that very dull color I don't like, but I do love these corrugations. And so I wonder if we could alter it and make it something I'm happy with. I suppose if you don't like getting messy, you could put your beads on the end of a skewer stick or something. And then now you get a different look if you just take a damp paper towel. That'll take off a lot more. So you definitely get a more subtle look. Let's see how fast that was already starting to dry. So don't go covering big areas and then expect you're going to be able to remove it. Well, that's kind of cool. There's a different way you could do that though. All right, this one wants to be painted. So we'll paint it. Actually, I want to open this and play with some of these because I just love these colors. You know me, my blue, purple, fuchsia. What do we got? It's called Ruby Opaline, which I've seen people use it online, and Cobalt. And if you do put a color on and find you don't like it, you can just paint over it with another color if it's dried already. Ooh, I like that. Maybe mix that with the gold. See how these all mix and blend together? I mean, you could actually mix. Let's see if we mixed a completely new color. That's a pretty teal. Ooh, I like that. And I'm going to add some dabs of gold here and there. And set that aside to dry. We'll come back to that in a minute. If you apply them a bit more thickly, you can end up with the look of enamel. Let's try this opaline. I've been dying to try it. And my brush is clean and dry. My fingers are a mess, but my brush is clean and dry. And see how that looks like enamel? Pretty cool. So you could come back, add other colors in the dots. You could also sand it for a more antique-y, subtle look. See, I like that better. I think that's just so much more interesting to look at. I'd probably come back into the green. With a different shade of green, just to make it more interesting. This is moss. Here and there. I mean, what a difference. And I don't think I've even finished from that. What a difference. I'd probably take maybe this, what's this called? Rust. It's kind of a bright orange. And add a touch in the centers just to brighten them up because they look a little sad and alone. And the colors I have maybe half of what they have. I think I have 16, and I think there are closer to 40 different shades. They keep coming out with new ones. They came out with a gorgeous deep turquoise in the spring of 2017. So you can just keep playing with this until you're happy with it and totally transform a piece. Let's go back to this bead. This is dry, mostly dry. And I'm just going to hit it. Oh, look at that. So now this is taking off that darker antiqued section and revealing the bright brass underneath, which I really like. And now suddenly I have a bead that I can think of many different ways of using. I hope you found this video inspiring. If you have, I hope that maybe you'll consider becoming a patron. Patrons also actually get up to 2 additional video tutorials every month. And you also get the satisfaction of knowing that you're helping to keep these videos coming for everybody. Because although they're free for you, and I always want to keep it that way, they are not free for me. They cost me quite a bit in time and materials. But I love doing it. So if you feel like you're able to, I'd love it if you could support me on Patreon. That would be fantastic. It really does look like a patina from copper, doesn't it, in there? Now these inks or paints, they're kind of a cross between, also work on wood, glass, leather. The manufacturer claims that they work on polymer clay. I have to let you know that that was tested by Cindy Leitz at the Polymer Clay Tutor. And I'll have a link to the video where she showed that even months later, Ranger patinas that were put on baked polymer clay remained sticky. She tried it in another video where she put it on raw clay and baked it thinking heat setting would make a difference, and it didn't. It still stayed sticky. So any product really that you want to try out on polymer clay, you need to do some testing and really look into it. There are chemical reactions happening that can take months. So what a difference from these beads that I started with to these. What other things can you do? Well, any pieces that you want to change the look of, you can do so. Let's try the glazing trick. I really like this piece. It's got a fairly shallow relief and I don't want to cover it too deeply. Oops, I forgot to wash my brush. So maybe the transparent look with the glaze would work well here. So I just poured out a little puddle of glaze, and I'm going to pop in some of this teal and some of this, and mix it in. And see, now instead of opaque, I like that. I think we'll, can't just have it all one color. Well, yeah, mixing orange and green will get you brown. That's what I get. Now see how I dabbed in the patina there, and suddenly it's not quite so transparent. Ooh, purple. Now you can leave that as is, or you can wipe that off. And a lot more of the look of the silver remains, and it's So instead of having that kind of a look, looks like this. And it's just a subtle difference, but what a great way of taking pieces of jewelry and making them suit whatever you need. I have here some earrings that, it's funny, they were favorites for years. For years and years, I wore these all the time, and I haven't worn them in ages. And I realized because they were getting kind of sad and worn, but I love the shapes, I love the style. And so it occurred to me, digging through a box of jewelry to be repaired or redone, that all I need to do is go over these with some patinas and I'll revitalize them. I'll share a picture of that on my Instagram. If you don't follow me on Instagram, you should. I share things that I don't always put on my blog or elsewhere. So have some fun exploring how you can alter your metal pieces and make them uniquely your own. Be sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Subscribe to my email newsletter at keepsakecrafts.net so that you don't ever miss a post. For a list of the supplies that I used, you can click on the link in the upper right, lower left, or in the description box to go to my blog post where I'll have a list of supplies. I always do, and I have product links. Happy creating.